What's going on, man?
All right, I think we do have a race issue in America, a huge one.
Oh, jump right in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me read my position because this one's old. We don't have a race issue or police issue. We have a welfare state and a mental health problem. Okay. Yeah. So, what were your problems with what I said?
The fact that there is still a race issue in America, a race issue, and there is definitely a police issue.
Okay. Well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, I guess I would say explain it a little bit.
Okay. Well, like there's still racist people in America who, some of them are very high up, and there's still sentencings that are like done by law that are meant to keep Black people in prison.
Are you suggesting there's systematic racism? Is that what you're suggesting?
That, and there's racism on a personal level where personal individuals feel negatively towards Black people and act on that feeling.
Okay. Is it just white people, or is there any other racist race?
I believe that every race can be racist. It just depends on the individual. So, but there's still them.
There's still okay. So where is the systematic racism? Because I definitely don't see it.
Okay. Well, for example, Nixon's war on drugs. Are you familiar with it?
Yep.
All right. Well, basically, what was happening was Nixon gave much longer sentences for possession, usage, and dealing of crack cocaine, which was specified towards the use of
African Americans.
Blacks. Yes, correct. But he gave lighter sentencing for regular cocaine, even though they're essentially the same drug and should have the same punishment. And he did this to keep Black people in prison and give them longer sentencings. And Bill Clinton also contributed to this because he had a minimum sentencing act that he enacted, which gave a minimum sentence for any crime committed. Like, it gave a minimum sentencing for dealing crack cocaine, meaning that it was out of the judge's hands for how long someone was sentenced for dealing crack.
And you think that people... Okay, well, I mean, I'm talking about today.
Today, well, these laws still exist today, and they're still being used to imprison Black people. Like, the majority of the prison population is Black people, but that's not the majority of the race in America. So, like, they're still.
So you think? So the only answer to that is racist. It's not that African Americans are committing more crime.
Well, we can consider this, but considering the fact that they don't make up even close to the population, like close to the majority of the population in America, it's a little far-fetched to believe that the majority of people committing crime is Black.
No. Well, no. The majority of crime is actually committed by white people. Inner city, Black people aged 18 to 42 that are males make up like 6% of the population, but they commit actually in inner cities. They commit anywhere from 52 to 70% of the crime. So they do actually commit a lot of the crime, the majority of the crime actually in
Allegedly.
inner cities. Well, not allegedly.
They're convicted of the majority of the crimes.
Well, no, police reports of the arrest without convictions, arrest.
This also brings on about the police problem, though, like, because not everyone being arrested for a crime is committing one. Not everybody killed for a crime is committing a crime. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but I don't see that. I don't think there's a police issue. I think, and from personal experience, which I don't want you to accept this because it's personal experience, and you can never expect anyone's personal experience. But where I live, which is not inner city, but it's not like urban either. It's like rural, I guess. You see a white kid come into court with a suit on and a good lawyer, the judge is going to stick it to him. Everyone knows that. But if you see a Black kid with no parents and a state-appointed attorney with a hoodie on, I mean, the judge is going to give him 3-4 chances. That happens where I live all the time. So I would argue that there's reverse racism.
I would have to disagree with that because I'm not sure what this case was called, but I think it was last year. A white kid got drunk and was driving down the street and killed several people in a car accident, a drunk collision.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about. Yeah, he got out of it.
Yeah, and the claim for it was literally white privilege. He was too privileged and rich to know what the outcomes of his actions were. He was literally let off for white privilege.
Yeah. So that one case, I don't think. So just, I mean, is that your only example? I guess.
Well, it's not my only example of like, because I've given the whole sentencing thing and the systematic problem there, and you know, I don't really feel how you can say there's not a race issue in America. I don't understand that personally.
There may be a race issue, but it's definitely not brought on by. I don't think. I think the problem with our country now is we don't hold people accountable for what they do.
I agree completely.
A black kid, or not just a black kid, a white kid, black kid, anybody robs a store, deals drugs, and then a cop pulls them over and a cop wrestles them to the ground. And you see videos on Facebook, oh, police brutality, but everyone's ignoring the fact that this kid just robbed a store or this kid just sold heroin or something. I mean, it's insane. So I mean, you are aware that black people kill more black people every year than white people kill black people, right?
Okay, I've heard this point several times. It's always brought up, but there's no such thing as black on black crime, in my opinion. I consider that proximity crime. They kill other black people because they're close to them. They're kept together in the inner cities. They're not killing them because they're black. The issue that we have with
wait, this is a big point. The majority of black people in this country don't live in inner cities, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making that point clear.
Yeah, but what I'm also saying is like those murders don't happen because they're black. Like the reason that we have so much offense taken to white on black crimes is because a white male is killing a black person because of their skin color. Like black on black crime shouldn't really be brought up.
I literally can't give you an example of a white person killing a black person because of their race. I can't even think of one.
Trayvon Martin.
The guy who killed him was Hispanic, not white.
Okay, but like it's still like systematically.
He didn't kill him because he was black. I mean,
I'd have to argue with that. I mean, he wasn't really doing anything.
So you think he just walked up to him on the street and shot him for no reason at all?
For being black and for being in a hoodie at night.
That's insane, but I mean, it doesn't happen in America. People don't walk up on the side of the street and shoot black people because they're black. That just doesn't happen. That never happens.
The KKK still exists in America.
Do you realize the Black Lives Matter movement has caused more deaths and more destruction in the last year than the KKK by far?
Not directly, and it's not their goal to cause death. The KKK's total intentions are to kill black people.
I'm never going to defend the KKK, so I'm not going to step on that. But
okay. I realize that sounds like a kind of a baiting, and I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I would have done the same thing. Well, you are aware that I don't know how you could say Black Lives Matter is well, hold on a second. This might sound like a personal question, but this will explain everything. Would you consider yourself on the left or the right?
More left.
I mean that kind of explains it, to be honest. I mean, liberals and Democrats have been telling black people they've been oppressed for like the last 10 years to get their vote.
Well, being a black male, I've personally experienced it, so it's not anybody telling me it. My personal experiences also. There's been racist acts done towards me.
Like what? If you don't mind sharing.
Okay, well, as you can probably guess, I don't look very African American. I'm half black, half white.
Biracial.
Yes, biracial. But when communicating with people and interacting in social environments, I've gotten several friends, like just by the initial first meeting. We've communicated several times over months, and then eventually it slips out that I'm black. And several people have literally blocked my number right after that statement. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. It's not a hyperbole. I say, oh yeah, I'm half black, and I never hear from the person again, and I'm immediately blocked. And also, at school, I made it very clear that I'm black because I'm very proud of my black heritage, and I don't do it to divide me. I do it to celebrate who I am as a person, as a race. And once this has been done, several jokes have been made towards me about how my people should be hung and how horrible it is. And if I say anything on Twitter, people are immediately texting me, calling me the N-word. Like, it's
Wait a second. So you tell me you post something on Twitter, anything, and someone immediately messages you and calls you the N-word.
Well, it's happening because I got into a few debates over racism in America on Twitter.
There you go.
And then after that, If I post anything that's not about racial conflict, if I post anything anymore, I immediately get called the N-word by a random number.
Well, I don't. That's definitely not racist. I mean, you might. That's obviously. Oh, that's definitely racism. It's not. The person doing that is just doing that. They're not doing it because they're racist. They're doing it because they're trying to piss you off, and they found something that pisses you off. They're called internet trolls. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I'm definitely understanding that, but like the jokes at school by other kids,
I mean, people tell jokes. All the time.
But these aren't jokes. They're only seen as jokes because it's been embedded into our culture that it's okay to be racist and it's funny. Like that's the only reason they're seen as jokes.
Well, what kind of jokes have they been telling? I guess.
Honestly, I couldn't specifically cite one, but they always end with there's a white guy and a black guy on a train, and they both jump off at the same time. Who hits the ground first? The white guy, because the black guy gets stopped by the rope.
Okay, so you're you take offense to that?
I take a highly offense to that. My ancestors were beaten and hung for being black, and now it's some joke for some privileged white kid to make fun of.
I mean, most of the black people I'm friends with would probably laugh at that. To be honest, they would laugh it off. They would not take like serious offense to it.
And it's not a personal base-to-base level, but I think that is base racism. Like that's very racist.
And I see, going into that, I see a lot of thin skin. Like people are offended very easily, and it's mostly liberals and Democrats. But you see a lot of PC culture. I think that's pretty. I mean, PC culture is horrible as it is, but I think freedom of speech is still the best thing for us to have.
I totally agree. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to strip anyone of the right to be like outwardly spoken. I just would prefer people's mindsets change to where they don't want to outwardly be racist.
So you think racist jokes are a very bad thing, and that racist jokes are like completely terrible, right?
Yeah, I do. I think it's contributing to the destruction of our culture, and it's contributing to racism in America.
See, I don't take it that deep at all. I think I see it just as a joke. But I guess I see what you're saying. So I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't agree with you, but I see what you're saying. I see your point. Is there like anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I guess the police issue. There's definitely a policing issue in America.
Okay, so you think blacks are being targeted by police more?
Well, I do think that, but I also think that anytime that I argue the fact that blacks are targeted by police, there's also another person saying, well, whites are also killed by police in America.
Bro, I'm going to give you the best advice I could ever give you for your future debates. When you're talking about Black Lives Matter and black police brutality, never go to statistics, because the statistics are definitely against you. They're not in your favor at all.
I wasn't eating statistic at all. Like, I understand that there's more white people brutalized by cops or supposedly by statistics, but I'm saying like those brutalizations don't happen because they're white, and the black ones do happen because they're black.
How do you know that? How could you possibly know that?
Because it's been happening for centuries, and it's stopped being more outwardly spoken, but it's still being acted upon.
Explain that.
Okay, because for example, like it was outwardly okay and appreciated to be racist towards blacks and minorities before Martin Luther King's movement, before his assassination. And after that, what Martin Luther King did, he didn't eradicate racism, he just made it less popular. So now there's people who are inwardly racist towards minorities and African Americans.
Yeah, but
they just won't verbalize it.
You can never control how people are feeling. That's impossible. But I mean, I think the reason I say there is no racism, because this 21st century has been dominated by the left. It really has. The last 5 years. It's not cool any longer to be racist. It's not cool to be a white Christian anymore, because if you are, you're automatically racist and a bigot. It's not just black people. It's not just people like you saying it. White people. There are white people. More. Okay, let me put it to you this way. In my experience, more white people have called me racist than black people.
All right. Well, I feel like.
Well, hold on a second. Can I address one of the comments real fast?
Yeah.
Well, that's because there are more whites than blacks, so of fucking course the number would be higher. Yeah, I'm not arguing just on kills alone. I'm the a percentage of police interactions with African Americans is statistically higher. It's not just the number of itself. You have to take the population and compare that to the amount of police interactions. So no one's I'm not going off of this the number because there's more white people. That makes no sense. But you were saying,
Oh, uh, where did I leave off? Oh, white people calling you racist.
yeah,
So I'm seeing where you're coming from, where you feel like everything you do makes you a racist in today's society. And that's understandable. It's been taken overboard a little bit, but in all reality, it should be taken overboard considering the past. Like, there's not really much that we could do that would be too much for equality. Do you get what I'm saying here?
no, I think we're
You
pretty
don't,
equal.
well, like I can see why you would assume that, but in all reality, like we're still being oppressed, we're still being hated against for being a race in itself. Like
Did you vote for Barack Obama? Or
I wasn't.
would you have voted for Barack Obama?
Yes, I would have.
Okay, so you see, the more we drift away from capitalism, and the more, and okay, I would say we were less racist in the '80s than we are now. Would you argue with that statement?
Yes, I would.
Okay, when Reagan was our president and capitalism was glorified and everybody loved capitalism. See, the beautiful thing about capitalism isn't racist at all. When we start voting for these Democrats who propose social policies like affirmative action, things like that, that's a racial divider. Black Lives Matter. You can say the movement itself is good. I'm not gonna argue or disagree with you. I disagree with you, but I'm not gonna attack that. What I'm saying is it's still a racial divide. When we put in place these policies and these organizations that are racial divides, of course our country is going to be more racially divided.
Okay, I can understand that, but you're focusing on the negative aspects of these like productions. Like, are you familiar with the definition for affirmative action?
The definition.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is. I don't know like what I don't know an official definition.
Yeah, I mean like just like a roundabout answer of what it, like a summary of what it is.
Okay, so affirmative action is the federal government telling like private institutions. I'm going to use the example of college, where they have to admit a certain number of Latinos, Hispanics, Blacks every year. They have to keep a certain percentage of this race on campus at all times.
Okay, and why this was created was because like the action roughly is to give a privilege to a specific race that has been discriminated against throughout history. So it's finally trying to reverse some of the negative racism that's happened in America and give minorities the chances and privileges
you're wrong. You're wrong. You're totally wrong. A black kid who's not qualified. Okay, so I see this a lot too. This is all over the news. And are you familiar with the club Young Republicans?
No.
Okay, well it's a movement in the street. It's an organization. They have a Young Democrats thing too. I'm pretty involved in it. But anyway, we were talking about this the other day, so that's really cool. What we were talking about was a black kid or a Hispanic kid who wouldn't get into a school normally because his grades aren't good enough shouldn't be going to that school. Affirmative action shouldn't get the bid over a white kid who has the grades to get in and just doesn't get in, because it sets these kids up to fail. They're not ready for a school like that, and they're going to flunk out.
Okay. Well, what's happening is the kids getting these grades are getting them because of the racial, like, systematic racism that's been happening in America for years. Like, the minority are less educated than the majority. They're highly less educated. They care less about their cases.
No, they're high. I agree with you. They are highly uneducated, but it's not racial. It's not systematic racism in today's world. It's because they don't have family structures, because this country doesn't respect family values anymore. That's why.
Okay, I guess I can see that, but then again, it's still a racial thing. Like, if you, for example, most, like in the back in the day, the majority of black people living in inner cities, like they like lived in the projects in Section 8 housing and stuff like that. And all of the schools that are designated for those Section 8 housings and those
actually, if you look at the demographics, the majority of African Americans have always lived in rural places like Alabama, Georgia, places like that.
Okay, but like when they do live in these places where they're basically forced to live, then they're giving.
How are they forced?
Okay, but like the systematic thing again, how crack was brought in by the government and given to the inner city and forced minorities into gangs and stuff like that, and forced them to be.
You have to understand my point. I'm not arguing that there wasn't racism in the 60s and 70s. I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you. There was racism back then.
I'm just telling you how like it's how what has caused today's racism. Like it's been embedded throughout all of our history. It's in our culture thanks to things such as giving crack to inner cities and stuff like that. Like by doing that, it's forced gangs and divides and addicts. And whenever your dad gets addicted to crack, and then you don't have a father, you don't have the family structure you're talking about.
But it was his decision to do crack.
Okay, but this isn't the decision wouldn't have been out there if the government didn't institute crack into the inner cities.
Okay, well, there's all kind. I could stay up all night and play video games and not go to school and not get good grades. That doesn't mean it's the video game's fault. That's just my fault. That's called taking personal responsibility for your actions.
No, that's completely different because video games that have addictive, like substances that make you have to keep playing them nonstop.
Absolutely, they do.
So if you stop playing video games, you start itching and aching.
Are you familiar with how drugs work?
Yes, I am.
They trigger dopamine releases. That's everything. That's how all addictive things work.
Are you familiar with withdrawal?
Yes, withdrawal symptoms. Yes.
Yes. Well, you don't get withdrawal symptoms from playing video games.
I mean, there have been psychological studies that prove otherwise, but I don't really
shake and scratch their arms and itch and cannot live another second without playing video games.
No, well, there are certain people that have panic attacks and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm not. That's not our main point. I don't want to get sidetracked.
Okay.
So what you're saying is because someone chose to do drugs because it was an option, it's not their fault. Is what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, okay, the government gave Black community everything that it needed to self-destruct, and
did the Black people choose it?
Yes, they did. But that within itself, like giving them the decision and the supplies to self-destruct, is horrible and illegal. And like they also weren't always given the decision to do that, because I'm gonna go back again. And I don't want you to think that I'm jumping to the past. I'm just gonna tell you how it's
go right in
the future. All right. So back in the day, segregation was happening. They weren't allowed to see specific bathrooms, anything like that. So it's created this mentality throughout all history in Black people that education is horrible. And thanks to crack, they're like, oh, I can make tons of money and sell crack, and like this is how I'm going to get out of the hood, by selling paraphernalia. And this has created like the lack of respect for education in Black society. And this is all due to the government instituting crack and instituting that culture into a Black society that you don't have to go to school. You can just sell crack the government gives us. But
don't you think it's up to Black people in today's society to change their own morals, their own sense of purpose?
That's exactly what's happening with Black Lives Matter. We're telling ourselves...
But they're not doing that. They're doing the complete opposite. They're looting NBA stores in downtown Charlotte. They're doing the complete opposite.
You're focusing on the negativity, like, and also...
Because you focus... Okay, the reason I'm focusing on the negativity, because people don't care... In the real world, people don't care about what you do that's positive. They care about what you do that's negative. So you can go to work every day for 2 weeks, and your boss is going to be fine, but you skip work one time... The boss is going to focus on you skipping work that one time. It's all about the negative things. It's never about the positive things.
Okay, you can do that, but I'm going to choose to focus on the positive parts of this movement. And then when it succeeds and we actually have equality in America for Black people, then I'm going to be very happy that I focused on the positive, not the negative.
It's never going to happen.
We're never going to be equal.
There's never going to be an end to racism. I don't think there's systematic racism, but there never will be an end to racism like you see it.
So we should just stop trying and accept the fact that we're inferior.
Let me go shut my door real quick. I'll be right back. All right. What I was saying was Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. He's the newly elected president. He'll take office in a month and a half, I believe. The Republicans control this country for at least the next 2 to 4 years. What your goal is will never happen.
And into racism will never happen.
No, racism will never end. That's impossible.
So we should just accept that we're inferior and live our lives under the foot of white oppression?
No, you shouldn't. You should not accept that you're inferior. What you should do is set out to better yourself personally and prove everyone else wrong.
Well, so again, that's what.
What'd you say?
I said again. That's what Black Lives Matter is set out to do. It's telling.
But they're not doing that though.
It's one of the things that they are doing. They're not just solely going burning down buildings and painting
but
yellow on the side of it.
People that have jobs and are adults, in the silent majority, the reason Trump won, they don't give a shit about the Black Lives Matter's voice. They don't care. They only care about seeing things on the news about them destroying things. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what people think. That's the truth. That's the cold, hard truth.
All right. And again, they're focusing on the negative, and this movement is, again, to show people that Black people are not just destructive. They can be productive and equal. And if all you ever focus on is a negative in life, then you'll never get anything accomplished, period. Everything has a negative outcome, regardless of what it is. There's always negative, symptoms of something, anything.
Yeah, of course. But I definitely don't think there's systematic racism. But what I was saying was, there'll never be an end to racism. You can't change racism because you can't change what people feel in their hearts. There's always going to be the rednecks that are racist. There's always going to be those gangbangers in Chicago who are going to go gangbang even though because they don't know any other life because their fathers they didn't grow up with fathers. There's always going to be these types of people in our country. What you can do, the best thing you can do yourself is ignore all this, go to college for 4 years, get a good paying job, and live your life and be an example to everyone that you are trying to be the change that you want to see. You know what I mean?
It's exactly what I'm doing by being an activist online and
No. Don't be an activist online. Bad. No activism. That's not
activism is a bad thing.
Yes. Social activism is not going to get you anywhere. Don't worry about that. Focus on all your grades and stuff like that. A blog, no one reads blogs. The only people that read blogs are people that agree with you. Conservatives, your CEOs and people like that, they don't give a shit about blogs. You're never going to get, I'm just going to give you some good life advice. No, you're never going to get anywhere by writing and reading blogs. Don't do that.
Well, I personally feel like even if I do follow your advice and go to college and try to get a great job, that I will be rejected because
No, you won't. Because the beautiful thing about America right now is we're still more capitalist than we are socialist. Thank God Obama didn't ruin that one for us. I got 2%, so I'm gonna make this last point. The beautiful thing is, you go to college and get your 4-year degree, and you go to a business, and they see that you are gonna save this company $300,000 to $400,000 a year, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and you only want $200K if you're depending on what degree you get. Seeing what that company seeing what you can do for them, they're not going to give a shit if you're Black, white, or Hispanic. They're going to hire you on the spot.
Okay,
and that's why.
Here's where I disagree. Because in my entire life, I had the fear that because of my name, that I'll never be seen.
Don't be afraid. You haven't experienced the real world yet. Have you?
I have, yeah. I've had several jobs. I've applied several places.
Not real jobs though.
And well, I'm still in high school, so as much as a high school can experience, I think I've experienced.
Yeah, see, that's good. See, this is why I don't think people that are. I think you shouldn't. I don't even think college kids should be allowed to vote anymore. But when you're 10 years from now, when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you're gonna realize, you're gonna look back and see you were wrong. I promise.
I don't think that I'll ever look back and
trust me.
Wrong.
Trust me, you will. You will. You're gonna look back when you've had your job, and you've seen how the real world operates. You're gonna see that there's no systematic racism. I promise.
I can't believe that. I truly cannot.
You will, though. I promise. All right, I'm at 1%, dude. I had a good debate. Have a good night, man.
You too.